Welcome to Rethink You, bringing you ideas, inspiration, and motivation to start living the life you were created to live. Here is your host, author, trainer, speaker, and coach, and founder of Rethink You, Kim Levings.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Rethink You podcast. My name is Kim Levings, and I'm looking forward to introducing you to another fascinating guest today who has become a great friend of mine. But before we do that, I just wanted to remind you, if you have not yet looked at the free coaching that I'm doing every Wednesday, go ahead and look for Rethink You, the page on Facebook. So if you're on Facebook, go and search for Rethink You, become a member and follower of the Facebook page. But when you do that, you will have access to the link to join the Coaching with Kim class. This is free coaching every Wednesday morning at noon or at lunchtime, noon Eastern time. And I'm doing that to give people the opportunity to test drive coaching, to get to know me, totally free of charge, no commitment, no strings attached. So come on, bring your questions. It's a lively conversation. It's highly interactive, and I hope to see you there. So let's talk about this week's guest. Debbie Debonaire is a global emotions therapist and a holistic counselor who has transformed her life to become a beacon of light to help others suffering in adversity, fear, severe lack of self-confidence, and self-esteem. She failed suicide 3 times and overcame extreme clinical depression and prolonged mental domestic abuse. So Debbie knows what it's like to take back control and transform one's life. Debbie's story is one of extreme courage and focus and has resulted in a complete transformation that has seen her rise to become a highly esteemed expert on contemporary emotional and trauma recovery. Debbie brings solutions, inspiration, and change through her innovative process, the Heart Act theatrapy approach. That's like theater combined with therapy, theatrapy approach to guide career women and men from negative life patterns to triumphant transformation and empowerment. This gives them the courage to take back their control and live life on their own terms so that they can thrive to their true potential and love what they desire and deserve. Debbie is a single mom to a beautiful son who was pivotal in her taking her life back after what she calls her oh shit moment, soon to be revealed in not one, but 2 books that she is penning. So I'm looking forward to this conversation with Debbie. And as you will hear, Debbie and she is spearheading a collaborative book project. So let's get started. Well, Debbie, welcome to the Rethink You podcast, and thank you for stopping by to have this conversation. And I believe you're on vacation in Wales right now, so I'm jealous as all heck. But why don't you introduce yourself to us and then start by telling us some of your story? What was the journey to what you're doing right now?
Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And yeah, I'm Debbie Debonaire. I am the founder of Heart Act and the creator of the Heart Act approach and theatrapy life script. How did all that come about? Oh, goodness. I lived my life for many, many years in victimhood mode, for nearly 40 years in victimhood mode. I was very badly bullied at school from the age of 8 to 16. At the same time, I was actually bullied at home as well, more on a mental level rather than the physical level that I was going through at school. And, when I often say to people that, it was my own fault that I got bullied when I was at school, people are quite aghast when I say that. But I say that because I've learned now what I should have known then was that I had a choice and I could have said no, and I didn't, because I lived in that victimhood mode. And every step through my life, I made myself the victim of my life. So the bullying continued into married life. Mental bullying, it was always mental bullying, never physical. And I was, told I wasn't good enough. Who the hell did I think I was? Get down off your pedestal. That kind of language was used with me all the time. I was also told at the age, I think I was around about 12, but, the memories get lost. The time scale gets lost in the memories sometimes. And around about the age of 12, I was told that I was a mistake, that I was a hole in a condom. So all of my life, I never felt like I fitted in, and was always vying for space, always vying for my own, to find who I really was, So, and I think that's a lot of what kept me in my victimhood mode. And I spiraled down into clinical depression after I'd been married for 22 years. I was married at the age of 19. Married for 22 years. That fell apart. Around about the same time, my father was killed, and because I found that I wasn't given the opportunity to tell him what I thought of him. And so as I spiraled down into clinical depression, had clinical depression for 6 years. During that clinical depression stage, I also failed suicide 3 times. Very angry, because the reason I was removing myself from the world was so that I was removing the toxic person in my son's life. That's who I was led to believe I was. I was the toxic person in my son's life. And, a lot of people, when they talk about suicide, they say it's a coward's way out, etc. But when you know the reason a person is doing it, then it kind of can change perspective on it quite a lot. So the reason, I was removing myself was because I was the toxic person in my son's life. So when I came, around, and I saw that I was still here, I was so angry, so cross. And I was bawling and shouting to kind of thin air, why had I been saved? And it didn't really take me, it took me a long time to find my purpose, but didn't take me a long time to find out why I was saved. And that came one night. It was actually the early hours of the morning, 2 a.m. in the morning. I woke up in the pitch dark, fully clothed, on top of the bed, very, very disheveled. And I felt something in my hand that I kind of I didn't understand what it was until I looked at it. And it was actually the neck of an empty wine bottle, which was very scary for me because I wasn't actually a drinker. I would have a glass of wine at Christmas or somebody's birthday, but didn't drink socially or anything like that. So that was quite a shock for me. But the bigger shock was that my little boy was asleep next door. He was about 8 at the time, and it frightened the life out of me that he could have walked in on me at any point during the night and found me in a state that I was in. And what I'm going to explain to you next is very hard to describe and really understand and comprehend sometimes. But I sat up in bed, swung my legs around, and I faced my bedroom door. And then in a second, my little boy's face was here. He wasn't physically there. So whether it was a ghost, an apparition, a dream, I've no idea. I have no explanation for it. And the look in that little boy's eyes and the tears running down his face made me realize that my little boy needed his mummy. And even though it's quite some time ago, it still affects me. And the reason it affects me was that I was taking or trying to take away my little boy's support, my little boy's strength, by removing me from the world. And that's why it kind of gets me, because I realized he'd been left on his own. Yes, okay, he's got his dad, but they didn't really have a very good relationship. And it made me realize that I was potentially putting him into an environment that he wouldn't have been comfortable in. And from that day, I then realized that I needed to do something. I needed to up-level myself. I needed to transform my life because my little boy needed a mum who knew what she was doing, who was stable enough to be his mum and give him the love and support that he needed. And, you know, it wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination. It just wasn't easy at all. And it did take some years to, you know, for me to feel like I was the mum he deserved. He never, you know, I speak to my son now, he's 29 now, and I speak to him now about his childhood. And it's amazing that what I perceived as his childhood was nothing like the childhood that boy, now young man, grew up in. You know, you showed me things I would never have seen if you hadn't have taken me. But all of that was blocked by me being in victimhood mode. I didn't see what was, you know, I didn't see that. All I saw was all of the negativity that I was bringing into his life. I didn't see all of the positive things I was doing for him. So after that early morning wake-up call, I went on a journey of transformation. And it wasn't easy. And one of the things that I did have a therapist for a very short time who got me to do something called mirror work, which was very, very difficult because I hadn't looked in the mirror for 9 years. And for the first 2 weeks, I just walked in front of the mirror with my eyes shut and just stood there. But it is a very, very powerful technique. And I use it a lot with clients that I have nowadays. And so I started on this journey of transformation. And as I was...
Debbie, sorry to jump in and interrupt because I'm really enjoying listening to the story, but I wanted to say, do you want to just explain briefly what is mirror work so I can hear people saying, what is that? So let's just take 2 minutes and then we'll get back to the story.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem. So basically what it is, you stand in front of the mirror and you look at the person looking back at you, but you don't just look at the person, you look into the person's eyes, because when you look into the person's eyes in the mirror, it takes you to the heart, and that's where the power lies. And when you look into the person's eyes and you're looking in the heart, you repeat 2 phrases. So for example, I would repeat, Debbie, I love you. And then I would say, Debbie, I love you unconditionally, no matter what is going on in the world or in your life. I love you unconditionally and always will. Or words to that effect. You know, we have kind of scripted words, but to me, it's very personal. So I give an example, and then we work on the dialogue that works best for the person.
Right. Yeah, I could see how the script would be custom, but just such a powerful process because, you know, from a biological point of view, I often say your eyes are the only external part of your brain that you could see.
Yeah.
So it's very powerful.
Exactly. Very, very
Alrighty.
powerful.
So yes, thank you for letting me sort of take that little sidetrack. So let's get back to, and I also wanted to just comment on the fact that you're taking yourself through this journey of transformation. And as you said, it wasn't easy. Having done that myself too, I know that sometimes you need a little bit of help, but it's really a lot of self-work, and it takes a long journey to remap all of that. So please continue. As I said, I'm sure people are enraptured by this story.
Oh, bless. So I started on this transformational journey. Like you say, I realized that, you know, I couldn't actually do it on my own. It was too big to do on my own. So I did reach out to someone, and unfortunately, that someone crossed the boundaries of professionalism and got feelings for me, which kind of triggered so many things from the past. So I didn't spiral back, but it did take me back a few steps, because then it became a trust thing again. And who could I trust to guide me and support me through what I was going through? And then I kind of said to myself, the only person who you can fully trust is yourself. put the trust in yourself. That is very difficult when trust is a huge issue for you. So, you know, I do have clients who come to me with trust being such a huge issue that they can't trust themselves and they need that guidance, you know. And, you know, and I think had I had other guidance that worked with me and resonated with me, the journey wouldn't have been as long, because it was quite a long journey. But through doing the techniques that I'd learned and techniques that I'd taught myself, I got to a point where I had a kind of aha moment where I realized why I was saved that day. And the reason I was saved that day was because I do have a purpose on this earth. And the purpose is to guide, inspire, and empower other women to take back their control so that they too can live life on their own terms. And, you know, when I say take back control, it's not necessarily taking back control from another person. It can be taking back control of your emotions, you know, taking back control of your anxiety, taking back control of your stress, taking back control of your depression, your overwhelm, society, you know, what people kind of say and do to you, you know, and so it's not necessarily a physical person that you're taking your control back from. It can be, you know, what actually somebody says rather than what they actually do. And understanding that you don't have, no one has control over what another person says or does. We are only in control of how we react to it. And that was a real massive learning curve for me, and something that I use every day when I'm talking about what I do.
Right.
So that's how I found my purpose, and now why I'm on the journey that I'm on now.
Hi there, it's Kim. And I wanted to just stop by and say, I hope that you're enjoying this episode. If you are, please be sure to like, review, and subscribe, whether you're on a podcast feed or the YouTube channel. As you know, putting out media takes time and effort, and we live for subscribers and reviews. So if you think this is a great podcast, please tell the world about us and be sure to subscribe. Thank you. Now let's get back to today's interview. Debbie, thank you so much. You said so much in there that I was making so many notes that, but I think one of the key themes that I think people can learn from is, you know, as you said, you were so angry, and we know this, you know, from research that most depressions are anger turned inwards, because you get angry at yourself and you want to remove yourself from the situation. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I also think that at the heart of anger that's tied up in depression is often anger at not meeting your own expectations, not living up to some false standard, and, you know, that desperate need for validation. So you just unpacked some really important themes there.
Absolutely. I mean, I know I went through my early life looking for someone to say, well done, someone to say, you know, you've achieved this, you've achieved that. I don't recollect having those when I was younger, you know, and I actually went on a kind of crusade to prove to myself, but to prove to others what I was capable of. And I actually, I conquered the Inca Trail, which was quite a toughie, because on the first day of the trek, which was a 12-day trek, I actually damaged my leg, and they wanted me to go home and not do it. And I said, I've waited since the age of 12 to do the Inca Trail. You're not sending me back home. And it, you know, I did it. It was a fabulous experience, a very much finding oneself experience.
Yes.
And I did, in kind of 3 years later than that, 3 years after that, have to have an artificial hip installed. But it doesn't take anything away from that experience. And, you know, It was just a phenomenal experience. And and after that Inca Trail and after I did my degree, I didn't really pursue anything to do with my degree, even though it is in what I'm doing now. It was more to show myself what I was capable of.
Yes.
And why I needed that, I don't know. But I think because I was virtually out of that victimhood mentality, it still had little pieces, little, leaves of it kind of hanging on the branches that I needed to address. And I think that was one of them.
That's amazing. I mean, to do an Inca Trail, but also to choose to do something to prove your strength and resilience, I think is, part of that transformation process. So good for you for doing that. And I think, the other thing you mentioned earlier is you said some people are astounded when you say that the bullying ended up, you felt it was your fault because you allowed it. That shows such a depth of understanding and mental resilience to come back from that place. And I think it's something that I want to urge everybody, that, and this is not my saying, and I think I may have shared it with you, Debbie, but my daughter shared this with me recently, that a coach had said, what you're not changing, you're choosing.
Yeah.
And I thought, that is it. That just nails it. That when we're stuck in the victim mode, we feel like we have no choice. We have no power. And in fact, you do have the power to choose not to accept it. So thank you for that. Wow. Just some great stuff. So Debbie, what else? So, I mean, you did your degree, you did the Inca Trail, and, when did you actually start serving women? And then I want to talk more about what you actually do at Heart Act.
I started back in 2013. I did it as a market research exercise to start with. So found people who I knew were close to me, who were going through their own traumas, their own challenges, their own adversities, and started to serve them, and had such tremendous results. I was actually quite shocked in the results that I got, that it just went from there. I was approached by a company to do some mentoring for mental health, and I still do work with that company, who look after people who are unemployed, who are dealing with mental health, either because they're unemployed or obviously at the moment because of COVID hitting everyone. But I started back in 2013. I did take a couple of years out because some other personal things happened to me in my life that, had I not gone through that transformation, I would never have come out the other side of. Wow. But I was cheated on twice, and where it would have knocked me before, it didn't. I kind of stood up to it and kind of asked myself the question, why did this happen? What was I giving off that caused this to happen? And then I actually asked the question of the person or of the two people, where I would never have done that before. But I needed the answers, because I needed to know, did I have any fault, or did I need to take responsibility of something, or was it just that, that's what they wanted to do? So it was quite a huge learning curve for me, but I needed to take myself out of serving others so that I could be the best version of myself to serve others. So I needed to make sure that, I wasn't giving something off that was creating this environment. So I took 2 years out and came back. That's when I actually trained to become a holistic counsellor. And then, not like 2 years ago, where we lose track with COVID, to 2019, I qualified as a heart math coach. So this is why I now specialize in building and strengthening emotional resilience, so that no matter what the challenge, the adversity, the stress, the anxiety, the depression, whatever the cause of all that is, a person can deal with it, do what needs to be done, and walk away and not carry it with them. So I've done a lot of research into the relationship between the brain and the heart, because I was always under the impression that, mindset was the key thing. And when you understand that the heart sends more messages to the brain than the brain sends to the heart, it kind of opens your eyes a bit. It makes you realize that it's not necessarily the thought that comes first, it's the feeling that comes first that triggers the thought. And through that, I have taken people on their own transformational journeys to to now be able to, for example, I mean, with the company that I work with, sometimes I do actually work with men and women. And the shocking thing is, the men, the average age of the men is 22.
Wow.
And that's quite scary. And, I remember this one young man, he was actually 20 at the time. He lived with his grandparents, and every week, once a week, he had to take his granddad to the supermarket to do the shopping. And he would be physically sick before he drove his granddad to the supermarket. He would stay in the car, granddad would go and do the shopping, granddad would put the shopping in the boot, and he would drive them back home. So we went on this emotional resilience building journey. And after 10 weeks, he stopped being sick. He actually had breakfast every morning, which he'd never done before. He went into the supermarket with his granddad. But he also used to travel to his uncle's and take his uncle's dog for a walk every single day.
Wow.
And when you see those results, you then realize that, yes, you do have a purpose, and the purpose, and the mission and the message that you're giving out there works.
Yes.
And
there's always a message that comes out. Right.
Yes.
There's always a message that comes out from your mess. Right.
And
you're a great example of that, Debbie. And I know that this work is so needed in the world today. As you said, there's just more and more issues. And I feel that emotional resilience is a topic that we don't address. We're not teaching our kids to have emotional resilience. And I think there's a lot of work to be done. So, bless you for doing that work that you're doing. And tell me kind of, what are the current goals? What's on your current to-do list that's right in front of you that you're excited about and challenged by?
Okay. Two biggies. Well, actually, there's three biggies, if I'm totally honest. The biggest one is Alive to Thrive. Failing Suicide Gives You the Gift of Life, which, as you know, is our book collaboration, which soon we will have a date for publication, which I am so excited about. But it has been a huge journey, and it's been a huge journey for yourself, myself, and all of the other women involved. It has been a huge, massive journey. One that I will be forever in their debt for, for being part of it for me. To make one person's dream come true is just phenomenal, and I cannot wait to get the dates that I can shout it from the rooftops that it's going to be going out, because yes, it's going to be a heavy read, but it is so needed in this world today.
Yes.
And it's going to be a massive resource for those who are either, have a family member who are having suicidal thoughts, or, just actually as a resource in schools, in universities, just to show people that suicide is not the answer, and you can be thriving in life. So that's the first one. The second one is that just recently, while all this has been going on, I am in the middle of creating a membership site, because my mission and my passion is to change the lives of 10,000 women. And I realized that I couldn't do that in just, my small group programs or my one-to-one programs. I don't have enough years left, I don't think. So I realized that this platform was a great way for me to serve more people and allow more people their own transformations and be able to step out onto their own life stage to shine as their own leading lady. So that's kind of the second one.
That's powerful. And Debbie, if people want to know more about that, they want to be part of that membership site, where would you send people?
Right. It's actually I'm going to be promoting it on Monday. Okay. So if they want to find me on Facebook, they want to find me at www.heartact.co.uk, which is my website. They can message me on that. I'm on LinkedIn as Debbie Debonaire.
So they should just follow you and connect with you, and they'll sort of see what you're up to.
Yeah, they'll see, and they'll see a link for them to get more information about the membership site.
Great. Yeah, it's so necessary. Right. So then, and then number 3. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So no, it's okay, no problem. And number 3 is my ultimate passion is to create a healing theatre. And it's going to be a pop-up healing theatre. So it can be moved around and it can be replicated anywhere in the world. And that's healing theatre. And it's not about acting or anything like that, or, being an actor, an actress or an actor. It's about using the essence and inspiration of the theatrical world to marry together with holistic strategies. So because not everyone who's dealing with mental health finds it easy to talk about it. So I want to use different mediums like poetry, script writing, scenery building, backcloth creation, songwriting, movement, speaking, just different ways that people can express themselves.
Yes. That's powerful, because I know that in your intro you have a theatropy approach. I had to wrap my tongue around that word. So now you've explained what that means. It's theatropy. Yeah. So theatropy. I think that's powerful because people could use creative expression to deal with the emotional side of things. So I think that's exciting. Yeah. So the book project's only one of several things.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, go on, Kim. I apologize.
No worries. No, this is about you. So you take the mic back.
So the theatropy side of things actually looks at the plot, the scenes, the life script, everything that it creates a person's life. But it's married together with the essence and inspiration of the theatrical world. So that's how it came about.
That's so powerful. So Debbie, what a fabulous story. And, as we get ready to close, I have 2 final questions. So the one is, what gifts or talents did you see in yourself? What strengths emerged that perhaps had been hidden behind the curtain of victimhood, or that sort of victim mindset that sort of blocked some of your natural talents and gifts? What are some of those that have come to light now that you've freed yourself through this transformation process?
There's actually 3 main gifts I would say that I feel I have, and that is that I'm an empath, that I am altruistic, and I'm fantastic at collaborating.
Yes, I can attest to that one. Yes, because I would imagine that, it hasn't been easy to try and collaborate and bring together all these women to co-author a book. So that's definitely been a strength of yours. So that empath and altruism really shines through some of these big missions and goals, because there again, it's one of the things that I say, that you get a balance and a holistic approach to life when you can align your gifts and talents to your values, to your mission. You then kind of are resonating with the same music in all levels of your life. And that's the great example. Fabulous. And Debbie, as people kind of move on and we close this out, what would you like them to remember about you? What is one final nugget you would give the audience?
My final nugget is this. I'd like each and every person out there to choose life, choose freedom, and choose you.
Love it. Choose life, choose freedom, choose you.
Yeah.
Debbie, this has been a blessing and a pleasure, and I appreciate you giving up your valuable time while you're on a vacation. And you deserve to have a break after everything we've been dealing with. So thanks again. Any final words as we say goodbye?
I would just like to say thank you, Kim, for allowing me this platform to share my story, to show others out there that life is for living and that each and every one of us can thrive, no matter where you are right at this moment in time. The sun is always shining when you get through the storm.
Wonderful. Debbie, thank you.
Thank you, Kim.